That is one of the key issues that we should keep in mind. We should protect the elderly and fragile, because when they get pneumonia, they have a high risk of dying of the pneumonia. On the other hand, children do very well with these diseases. They're evolutionarily designed to be exposed to all sorts of viruses during their lifetime, and so they should keep going to school and infecting each other, and that contributes to herd immunity, which means after about 4 weeks at the most, the elderly people could start joining their family, because then the virus would have been extinguished. With all respiratory diseases, the only thing that stops the disease is herd immunity. About 80% of the people need to have had contact with the virus, and the majority of them won't even have recognized that they were infected, or they had very, very mild symptoms, especially if they're children. So it's very important to keep the schools open and kids mingling to spread the virus, to get herd immunity as fast as possible. And then the elderly people who should be separated and the nursing homes should be closed during that time can come back and meet their children and grandchildren after about 4 weeks when the virus has been exterminated. It's not the first coronavirus that comes out, and it won't be the last. And for all respiratory diseases, we have the same type of an epidemic. If you leave it alone, it comes for 2 weeks, it peaks, and it goes for 2 weeks, and it's gone. If the government if there had been no intervention, the epidemic would have been over, like every other respiratory disease epidemic.
And how many, in your estimation, would have died? Would it have been that much?
Okay, we have right now, let's take realistic numbers in the United States. We have about 25,000 cases every day. Our hospital system would have to deal with 2,500 patients every day for a certain period of time. That could be about 3 or 4 weeks, and then the number will dramatically decrease again, and the whole epidemic will be over.
And of those hospitalized cases, what, in your estimation, how many would die?
2% will die.
Of the hospitalized cases?
Of all cases.
Of all symptomatic cases?
Of all symptomatic cases. 2% of all symptomatic cases will die. That is 2% of the 25,000 a day. So that is 500 people a day. And that will happen over 4 weeks. So that could be as high as 10,000 people. Now that compares to the normal numbers of flus during the flu season, and we have in the United States about 35,000 deaths due to flu every year during the flu season. So it would be part of the normal situation during the flu season. I don't know where these numbers are coming from. They're totally unrealistic. There are no indications that this flu is fundamentally different from every other flu. We know what happened in China. We know what happened in South Korea. We know what happened or is happening in Europe. There are no indications that anything is different from a regular flu. Maybe one that's a bit worse than other flus. Could be. We can see that in China, in Korea, the epidemic went down, and the epidemic did exactly what every other epidemic did, and it's not that 400% of all people died. Maybe it's 3 rather than 1%. Maybe. But it's not, nothing is fundamentally different from the flus that we have seen before. Every couple of years there's a flu that's a bit worse than the other flus were, and it goes away in exactly the way the other flus went away. And this one behaves exactly the same way. The epidemic has ended in China. at least in the provinces where it is. It has ended in South Korea. In Europe, it's declining and will be ending anytime soon. Could be a bit longer than typically because of the containment, which flatten and prolong the epidemic. And so that's really good if we want to be affected by it as long as it gets. And in the United States, we're doing the same thing. We're prolonging the epidemic to flatten the curve, but eventually it will end.